We're good.
Got it.
All right. I think we're supposed to make some remarks, yes? Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to go first very, very briefly. When I first heard about this award, I had several different thoughts. One of which was the coincidence of civility with what the guiding principle of President Václav Havel was throughout his life. Those of you who are too young to remember this, Václav Havel was the first president of Czechoslovakia after communism. He was a dissident writer and a leader of the Velvet Revolution. And in all his plays and all his speeches, civility really was featured heavily. Those of you who may remember this, in 1990, he gave a presentation of the joint session of Congress, and about a third of that presentation dealt with civil society. To quote Havel, democracy must be anchored in civil society. Without citizens who take responsibility in the public sphere, political democracy is an empty shell. And this is what we are talking about today. This is what the whole day was about. And this is the kind of civility that we're talking about. Another thought I had when I first heard about this award was civility. I was thinking of civility in the more common sense of the word, politeness. And those of you who know me, that does not fit. But then I realized, it's the other meaning of the word, and then I said to myself, why me? No, why us? Oh yes, this is why us. Because Susan has really been the person who has been engaged in this community for decades, trying to make for a better society, better civil society, both in her healthcare activity, but many other activities earlier on, and now in politics. And it is no coincidence that whether we go to Wegmans or the airport or any restaurant, on any given day, she's approached by any number of people, literally asking her advice, her help, and so forth. She is the most engaged person in our civil society, and that is how a civil society is formed. So it really isn't why me, or even why us, so I appreciate being included and being a partner and supporter. And here you go.
Thank you. I actually was tasked with coming up with remarks from both of us, so I'm going to give them, if that's all right. It's going to take another 7 to 10 minutes, so I hope you'll bear with me. If anyone wants to leave now, please do. So I was simply going to say thank you, Jan. Thank you. And we want to thank the Constitution Day Board and WPSU and CNET, I see you, all of you here, especially those who joined the round tables. For us, the best part of today has been hearing people share honestly, ask questions, and even disagree, but do it in a way that kept the conversation moving forward. That's what makes this award feel so meaningful. I also want to pause and recognize our family here today, our good neighbors. We have our 2 sons here, our daughter-in-law, and our 3 wonderful granddaughters. They're up in the top row. Having them here reminds us that this moment is even more meaningful. It reminds us that civility isn't just about government or policy. It's about the kind of community and the example that we leave for the next generations. I'll be honest, I'm not a constitutional scholar. For most of my life, I took the Constitution for granted. My own father valued it deeply. Family lore says he died with a copy of the Constitution in his pocket. And while I didn't grow up studying it in detail, I was taught it was my civic responsibility to vote. That was the way to use my voice in civil society. Jan's story adds another layer to this. He grew up in communist Czechoslovakia, where free speech and civil society were stifled. His parents risked everything to bring him and his sister to England so that they could grow up free. That courage is why he is here today, and it's a reminder that when I sometimes take for granted here, it is both fragile and it is precious. It was only about 10 years ago, as our national conversations grew more polarized, that we began to look at the Constitution more seriously and more often, and to realize how much it depends not just on leaders in courts, but on all of us, practicing civility in our daily lives. When people hear civility, they often think it means politeness, just politeness. But civility is more than good manners. It's choosing to really listen with the idea that the other person might have something to teach us. And it's sharing our own perspective without cutting someone else down. And maybe, most of all, it's staying at the table long enough to find common good. Together, Jan and I have devoted nearly 3/4 of a century to caring for others. Through all those years, what has guided us most is simple. Service is at the center of what we do, and the belief that true healing can only happen when civility and respect are part of every encounter. At its core, it's about seeing people, patients, families, and colleagues, and treating their concerns with respect, meeting people where they are at. When people feel seen and heard, trust grows, and without it, people we care for can't fully share their story, and without that openness, our best efforts as healthcare providers fall short, because healing, real true healing, grows from trust. Through trust, not only does healing become possible, but strong, lasting relationships are built between patients and providers, and also among colleagues working side by side. In my service in local government, I do see both civility and incivility, and Jan sees it in his committee work as too. Elected officials and volunteers alike have to argue and debate in order to reach consensus and make decisions. The people who listen fully, without planning their counter-argument while someone else is speaking, are often the ones that help bring us to consensus. At our best, we show respect, even when we don't all agree. Madison wrote in Federalist number 51, ambition must be made to counteract ambition. In other words, our imperfections and our disagreements aren't a flaw in democracy, they are part of the design. Madison believed that democracy was never meant to be easy. He knew disagreement was inevitable and even healthy, and he designed a system to channel it. But that system only works if citizens bring both courage and civility to the table. The courage to speak honestly and the civility to listen with respect. And here's my plug for getting more involved in local government. While 90% of what fills our news feeds is international or national, about 90% of what shapes your daily lives, roads, zoning, emergency services, parks, and sidewalks, it gets decided right here at the local level. The best part is you can still walk in, you can send an email to us, or pick up the phone and be heard. It's government at a human scale, but none of it works without that dedicated staff that we have who serve the quiet good. And who knew that sidewalks didn't roll themselves out? That's what I tell people all the time. Who knew? We've learned that civility doesn't always change someone's mind, but it can change their stance and opens up the possibility for finding common ground. It can shift us from defensiveness to curiosity, from shutting down to opening up. To be clear though, civility doesn't mean watering down your convictions. It doesn't mean avoiding urgency or taking a stand. What it means is pairing courage with respect. Courage without civility burns bridges, and civility without courage risks doing nothing. We need both. We are human, and speaking for just myself, I know I interrupt, I bristle, I'm not always a good listener, and I do get very defensive. The test of civility is not whether we're perfect, but whether we can repair. Saying, I'm sorry, let me try again, may be one of the most civic and most healing things we can do. It's progress, not perfection. So Jan and I want to recognize the Constitution Day Center and its board for their vision and for their hard work. Organizing roundtables, building these community conversations, and keeping alive the spirit of Madison is not easy work. It takes time, persistence, and faith in people's abilities to come together. What you're doing here is creating civic space where disagreement is not feared, but embraced as part of a healthy democracy. That is a remarkable gift to this community, and we are grateful. And before we close, we also want to take a moment to thank WPSU in a special way. And also we want to thank CNET. As a public broadcaster, WPSU has been one of the most consistent and civil voices in our community, in our own home and in our cars. It has told stories with accuracy and respect, created space for dialogue, and it has elevated issues that matter without turning them into shouting matches. In a time when media can so easily divide, WPSU has been a bridge, connecting rural and urban communities, families and experts, students and citizens. It has modeled what we are celebrating today, the idea that we can face hard issues together with honesty, respect, and civility. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank you all for coming today and for giving us this time. You gave your time to be here to listen and to share and to take part in this discussion. That too is an act of civility and of citizenship. By showing up, you remind us that democracy works best when people care enough to take part. So let's keep showing up, let's keep disagreeing without being demeaning, let's hold on to our convictions without writing off our neighbors. Madison believed that the strength of our country doesn't come from avoiding hard times, but from reasoning together through them, and we believe that too. And so on behalf of both Jan and me, thank you.